Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk, coming to you on a Tuesday afternoon in the capital city. Thanks so much for being with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook, WIBW News. And if we look a little crooked to you on the YouTube stream today, you're going to have to bear with us. Our camera fell down. So this is the best we got video-wise to start things off. It will in no way...
No, that's cool. I've always wanted to see what the show would look like during a 5.4 earthquake.
It will in no way impact the quality of the program. It will be...
Unfortunately.
Yes. It will be the same... middling, fair to middling sports talk radio program it had always been, regardless of what angle the camera might be pointing on the YouTube live stream. But we appreciate you being with us here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis is the power trio with you for the next 2.5 hours. We are once again off today at 5:30 for more Royals baseball. The Royals and the Yankees, game 2 of their 3-game set at Yankee Stadium tonight. It'll be Seth Lugo against Marcus Stroman, the pitching matchup. And the first pitch is scheduled for 6:05. So pregame coverage will be at 5:30. We'll give way to the Royals Baseball Network at that time. So we've got 2.5 hours to talk some sports with you today, and we have got plenty to discuss, including last night's Royals contest, a 10-4 loss in which once again, that soft underbelly of the Royals bullpen was exposed in a bad way. Anytime you see the human white flag, Chris Stratton, jog out from the bullpen, you know it is not good times for the boys in blue as they fall 10-4 to the Yankees last night. A game that the Royals led early 2-0, also led late 4-3. It got away last night, and it begs a question about what this team's postseason bullpen is going to look like. And the good news is it doesn't have to have as many guys in it. The bad news is we got to find enough guys that you feel confident in.
Yeah, you don't need to keep as many guys, but to fill your smaller number of holes, do you still have enough of them, enough of the good ones, which is it important right this second? Not necessarily. Is it going to be important for the vitally important games that are coming up in less than a month? Yeah. I would say so.
Yeah, that is that's definitely a good point. And one reliever who struggled last night in particular, maybe just not cut out for the big moment. And not every reliever is. Like, you need guys to be able to pitch the 6th inning when you're ahead by 10, or you pitch the 8th inning when you're down by 10. Like, you do need those guys. But another troubling high leverage outing for James McArthur. Really a stark contrast between how he has pitched in low leverage down the stretch and how he has pitched in high leverage in the last month or so. We'll break that all down for you in just a little bit.
Folks, I call him Lames MacArthur.
Call him James McAwful.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're on fire. See, quality of the program not impacted by the camera mishap on our live video stream. We have got some NFL to talk about. Week 1 fully in the books. 49ers dominated the Jets last night. And I think given what we saw in week 1 across the NFL landscape, I think if you're a Chiefs fan, you got to be licking your chops. I think it was very, very clear who the best team in the National Football League was after 1 week of action, particularly in the AFC, with so many flaws for other AFC contenders looking so glaring. We'll break those down. We'll talk about who had a good week 1, who maybe deserves some extra consideration after their week 1, and who maybe had such a poor week 1 that it's already time to kind of question what we might have thought about them coming into the season. We'll discuss on some NFL week 1 reactions coming up later on in the show. Lots of KU content on today's program. We will have Michael Swain stop by for Jayhawk Weekly. He'll join us at 4:35 as he does every Tuesday. Michael Swain of Fog.net and the 24/7 Sports Network. We'll discuss KU's disappointing loss in Champaign against Illinois, what the Jayhawks have to do to pick up the pieces and get focused on a short week as they take on UNLV on Friday night. We'll also talk a little hoops with Michael as well. There was some KU basketball news earlier this week. And we'll talk to Lawrence Arnold, the senior wide receiver for the Kansas Jayhawks. Earlier today, Brendan and I had a chance to catch up with LJ and talk about, well, most of those same things. Disappointing loss at Illinois, excitement for this Friday against UNLV. Talk a little bit about the camaraderie of that receiver group, the great career LJ's had at KU as well. A conversation with Lawrence Arnold coming up later on this hour that we hope you'll enjoy. Plus, all the other fun stuff you've come to know and love from a Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. We got Random Question Tuesday. We got another round of What Is Wrong With You. We'll do our headlines and a Royals preview at the top of the 5 o'clock hour before once again giving away at 5:30 to the Royals Baseball Network. You are encouraged. You can interact with the show today. I got tongue-tied there for a moment. Again, quality of the program, not in any way impacted, for better or for worse. You can interact with the program today on our YouTube live chat. If you're watching the show on YouTube, we encourage you to do that. If you haven't done it before, check it out. Our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. We're up to 630 subscribers on the channel, so subscribe today if you have not. And if you're watching live, you can jump in the live chat. There's already a great crowd in there today. Interact with each other. Interact with us, your hosts, as we go along. You can also comment if you're watching the show on Facebook, WIBW News. You can also hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. Let's get into it. Royals lose 10-4 last night, and again, it was the underbelly of the bullpen, softer than a kitten's underbelly, responsible for turning what was a 4-3 lead into the seventh inning into that 10-4 loss. 4 of the runs, all earned, charged to James MacArthur, the old infinite ERA for the night, as MacArthur came in and did not record an out.
Even in September, you come in, allow multiple runs, and don't record a single out. That's not going to do a whole lot of good for your ERA.
It really isn't. And we've talked about MacArthur all year long because he's been a guy who's been important to the Royals bullpen from start to finish. He was the team's closer. He has 18 saves. He's going to finish the season as the team's save leader. Pocket that bit of trivia for 20 years down the road when somebody asks about playoff-bound Royals teams. But obviously, he had some difficulty after a really good April, started to slip a little bit late April, early May. Hasn't been the closer, certainly hasn't been the top bullpen arm, at least since the acquisition of Lucas Erceg via trade. But he had some moments recently, starting to make more guys swing and miss, starting to get the strikeout bat going, which that's the biggest thing for a reliever, right? We've talked about it ad nauseum throughout the season. You've got to miss bats. And this Royals bullpen has been one of the league's worst all season long at missing bats, getting strikeouts. MacArthur had been a major culprit in that regard, but over his last few outings, he started to have the strikeout numbers tick up, and that's been an encouraging thing. He's still just in his first full major league season, only 26, 27. How old is MacArthur? He's not anywhere near what you would consider necessarily to be a finished project. 27 years old. Yes, his age 27 season. Keep in mind, Lucas Erceg is 29 and had his breakout year this year. So sometimes relievers are late bloomers.
I'm not in the bigs almost the exact same amount of time.
Yeah, like I'm not entirely ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to James MacArthur. But there is a very obvious trend developing with this particular reliever. He's made 15 appearances since the acquisition of Erceg, which was effectively the moment at which he became not the most important pitcher in the Royals bullpen. You could argue that happened the week before or the weekend before when the Hunter Harvey trade went down, but his usage pattern changed when Erceg was acquired. And in 15 appearances since the start of August, James MacArthur has a 4.05 ERA, which isn't great, but isn't hideous. 13 1/3 innings pitched, 16 strikeouts to just 4 walks. That'll play. Like that walk to strikeout ratio is really good. He's striking out more than the batter per inning. He's not walking many guys. That's been a strength of his throughout the year, that he's in the strike zone, maybe too much in the strike zone. That was certainly the case last night.
Yeah, that's the thing with MacArthur for me, is that his stuff is just hittable. Like he should have better stuff. We've used the stuff plus before from Fangraphs and Enosaurus. It's essentially just the quality of the command and the movement and all of that on your pitches, the velocity relative to the rest of baseball. He doesn't rank poorly in that. I mean, he's right around the same area as both Hunter Harvey and Lucas Erceg. But over the course of the season, it's just been very hittable. He doesn't walk dang near anyone. I mean, 5% of all batters faced this season have been walked. That's a really good number. You will happily take that, especially for a reliever when you're trying to keep as much traffic off the base paths as possible. But not only does he not miss bats, he gets hit all the time. I mean, all of his, if you want to look at the advanced numbers across the board, I mean, the fastball is mediocre. The breaking stuff is not good at all. It has not been a productive pitch at all for him this season. It's flat. The whole body of work is flat so far. And in a game where increasingly everybody worth a you-know-what can throw junk and throw up, 102 with movement or throw a slider that would make Babe Ruth pass out, he just doesn't have that stuff right now. And it's been killer when he's gone out there.
So his breaking ball has been a big reason why he's upped the strikeouts recently. He started to get some better results with the breaking pitch, the curveball in particular, starting to get some more swings and misses on that. But batters are hitting 326 on his fastball this year. And the two big hits last night, the RBI single to Judge, which, like, if that's 3 feet to the left or 3 feet to the right, that's a double play ground ball. And we might all be talking today about, man, James MacArthur in a big spot. Like, that's how fickle baseball is. The next batter, he hit a ball that hit the ground like 500 million miles from home plate.
Eventually, it did come down.
Every batted ball is a ground ball when you think about it. Every batted ball hits the ground eventually.
If Dude, Where's My Car was about baseball,
sometimes it just happens to hit concrete, or
sometimes it hits the ground.
Yeah. MacArthur giving up the 3-run home run to the Yankees catcher, whose name I've already forgotten. Austin Wells. Yeah, that's right.
Dude, he mashes.
Yeah, he's having a great cleanup, kind of out of nowhere for the Yankees. And bad pitch. You don't want to go down and in to a left-handed batter. I don't care who the left-handed batter is. You don't want to go down and in to any left-handed hitter with some power, because that's where they could drop the bat head and hit a nuke, and that's exactly what happened, and the game functionally ended there. But this is the trend with MacArthur. I mentioned, taken as a whole, his last 15 appearances have been mostly solid. Here are the 3 outings where he's been really bad. August 3rd against the Tigers. You remember that one, that wild extra inning game where nobody could keep the lead.
Yeah.
And MacArthur came in with a 1-run lead and gave up 2 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned, because the ghost runner, the Manfred man, is never an earned run. 1 walk, no strikeouts, a blown save, and a loss. August 30th came in against the Astros, 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, took the loss. Last night, no innings pitched. 0+ in the innings column. Gave up 4 runs, all earned on 3 hits with a walk. Again, no strikeouts, another blown save, another loss. Those 3 outings also happen to be his highest leverage outings of the stretch, as measured by Baseball Reference's leverage index. So in the highest leverage, the highest pressure moments for MacArthur, an inning and a third, 7 hits, 7 runs, 6 of them earned, 2 walks, and no strikeouts. In all other outings, and it's not as though MacArthur has not pitched in high. It's not like all of his other outings are coming with like nobody on in the 9th and the Royals lead by 20 runs. It's not as though there's been like no pressure in all of his outings. But in his other outings that have not been such high pressure outings, 12 innings of shutout ball with 14 strikeouts to just 2 walks. He's been a completely different pitcher when the stakes are lower. Kind of a problem when you're moving towards October, when all of the stakes are high, when there are no easy outs, where there's no like White Sox 8-9-1 hitters to go through in a 3-run game. So that is a big problem for MacArthur, and it exacerbates a season-long problem for the Royals, which is you've got to get your starter through 6 innings. And the Royals didn't do that last night. Brady Singer was iffy and not efficient and only gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. And frankly, Alex Verdugo's home run is probably an out at Kauffman Stadium. But Only 5 innings from your starting pitcher means the soft part of your bullpen has to get you some big outs. But this begs the question, why did it have to be the soft part of the bullpen? We've seen Matt Quatraro manage games with urgency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go to Lucas Erceg in the big spots or try to match up platoon-wise with left-handed batters. Sam Long works the 6, which I had no problem with, and he did fine. Threw close to 20 pitches, but we've seen Long extend out for a second inning of work or so. Why couldn't he have worked the 7th with Verdugo scheduled to lead off, with Juan Soto due up third, another left-handed hitter? Why not see if Long could give you 3 more hitters? Why not see if maybe Bubic could give you a second consecutive day, though apparently that's verboten? Why not call on Daniel Lynch, who was awesome on Saturday? Yeah, I know he threw 3 innings that day, but maybe a day of rest was good enough to have him back up.
I will say I'm a little...
Or, one last point here, why not Lucas Erceg for the big boys? Why not have Erceg ready to go behind Sam Long? Start the inning with Long, see if he can't get 3 outs. If it comes to Aaron Judge in a 1-run game or a tie game, I don't know. Maybe that's where you want to use Lucas Erceg. And that's where Matt Quatraro has gone to Erceg in other spots this season. And I don't know why he wasn't willing to do that last night. I hate to keep harping on this from Matt Quatraro, a lack of urgency with regards to how the bullpen is managed, but we saw it again last night. It was costly.
I don't understand the usage of guys for multiple innings and why some days guys get multiple innings and some days they don't. I'm really not sure. There's got to be some piece of data. We know how data-driven this Royals team tries to be and how data-driven Matt Quatraro is, so there must be something. But I don't quite understand what that is, because I agree with you. If Long is cooking, we know he can do it. Let him do it. We know Lucas Erceg is at his best, is best utilized for this Royals team when it's in a high leverage situation. So let him go do that. Who cares if it's the 7th or the 8th or the 9th or the 6th? What does it matter? Yeah, we go out there and try to win.
We've seen him in the 6th.
Yeah,
we've seen him in the 6th inning.
I just don't understand the method to the madness here. That's the thing that I'm very hung up on, is I don't know why some days that's fine and some days that is unallowable. I'm not sure. I haven't tracked anything. If you may give me one more moment, because I pulled this up. The thing for MacArthur, because you were given the leverage stats earlier for just doing fun with stat splits, it's been finishing innings that's been the problem for MacArthur. And if he can get through cleanly, like you mentioned, those low leverage situations, and he's not pitching himself into higher leverage, he's been pretty good. With the bases empty on 264 opponent average, it's not great, but it's not terrible over the course of the season. With nobody out in the inning this season, 70 plate appearances with nobody out in the inning. And James MacArthur has allowed an OPS of 559. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Opposing batters hitting 559. You'll take that. With 1 out, opposing OPS of 992.
Huh.
He's allowing batters to be somewhere in the neighborhood of Bobby Witt Jr. every single time there's 1 out.
Huh.
2 outs, OPS, a little bit better, 798. That's still, you're looking at an OPS plus 798 this year, probably like 120 or higher, given the state of offense in baseball. Like, he's getting crushed once he starts the inning. It's like he loses it's like he blows all of his confidence on the first batter, and then it just falls apart from there. I don't know what would explain that, but he's just getting his ass kicked as the inning gets longer. Like, he's a Roogie, essentially, but those don't exist anymore because of the 3-batter rule.
Right.
Like, the way to deploy him, I guess, is if you bring him in with 2 outs already and try to get someone out and only use him for that. Like, I don't know where else to deploy him to make the best use of his skill, or at least the best use of these trends. But you run into a situation now, you mentioned it earlier, going into October, you don't have to carry as many pitchers.
Right.
Because you get more days off, and you are more likely, generally speaking, to use guys longer and more often because it is do or die. Who cares if you're fresh for October? It is October now. So you've got to be prepared for that. So you don't need to keep all of the guys who have been crap this year, but you need to keep some of them. Like, so how are we going to fill out this playoff roster? Do we keep Chris Stratton and James MacArthur, or do we dump both and bring up Drew Waters? Like, you got to keep some of these guys, but who is going to make the cut, or not make the cut.
So the way I figure it, you only really need 11 pitchers for a postseason series. And certainly for a wild card series, you might not even need that. You might only need 10. You need 3 starters in a short series.
Yep.
The wild card series, best of 3. So you need 3 starters. And you probably need 2 long guys, 2 bulk guys. For a different series, you might need a 4th starter. And then you got your bulk guys, and you got 5 relievers. I would say you only need to keep 5 guys who are your true relievers. So let's add on another starter to that and talk about if the Royals advance into a best of 5 or a best of 7 scenario, and they're keeping 11 pitchers. 1, 2, and 3 are really easy. Right now, Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, Michael Walker are your best starting pitchers. Those guys are going to be lined up to start a wild card series, no question in my mind. Brady Singer and Alec Marsh and Michael Lorenzen, if he is back healthy by the end of September and into October, that's probably 4, 5, and 6. Long guys, they can start, they can relieve. That's going to help them. 5 relievers. Urseg is an obvious one. Bubic is an obvious one. Sam Long, I think, is an obvious choice. They get a lot less obvious after that. You've got to find 2 more guys. Probably John Schreiber is going to be one of them.
Probably.
And then you'd like to hope it will be Hunter Harvey, but boy, none of the medical news has been good about Hunter Harvey to the point where I would be kind of surprised if he's back by the end of the season.
Yeah, how do lemon laws apply in baseball?
Well, fortunately, it's not just a rental, and the Royals will be able to hopefully get Harvey healthy and get something out of him for next season. But yeah, his back acted up as soon as he got to Kansas City. And yeah, I would honestly be surprised they get more than the 6 appearances they've gotten from him already. If you need one more right-hander, you know who's actually outpitched James MacArthur this year in relief? Carlos Hernandez. And it's not like he's the most trustworthy guy in the world, but in 21 1/3 innings, all low leverage, let's be fair, 20 strikeouts, which is fine. No home runs. He's kept the ball in the ballpark. Like, at this point,
I bank on the upside with him.
Wouldn't you rather? Like, we got 55 James MacArthur appearances. We kind of know how it's going for him this year. We've got a team-leading 56 appearances and 57 1/3 relief innings from Chris Stratton. You know what you're not doing in the playoffs? Mopping up, because every out counts. Chris Stratton's not going to be in the playoff roster. I can guarantee you that. Carlos Hernandez, 20 appearances. Most of them have been pretty solid. Like, I'm more willing to give that a look than I am to give MacArthur another look or try to sneak a healthy Will Smith on the playoff roster. Like, absolutely not. There's no need for that. Now, you've only got 2 lefties there. That's sort of the bad news, is you've only got the Bubic and Long. Maybe Daniel Lynch, who's pitched really well out of the bullpen.
I would take Lynch over either MacArthur or Stratton right now, without question.
Yeah. So I guess that's the bright side of all of this, is when you watch the guys who are really struggling out of the bullpen for the Royals right now, chances are very high those are not going to be October factors. And for whatever reason, Matt Quatraro managed last night's game like it was the middle of May and not October, and you got the result that you got. But hopefully better result tonight for the Royals. They send Seth Lugo to the mound, who's been great his last 2 times out. Marcus Stroman's plenty hittable for the Yankees, although he did throw 5 2/3 innings of shutout ball at the Royals earlier this year. Pregame at 5:30, first pitch, 6:05 from the Bronx tonight here on 580 WIBW. We're just getting started on this edition of the program. We're going to fix our studio camera, play a little Random Question Tuesday. We're going to hear from Lawrence Arnold, wide receiver from the University of Kansas, later this hour as well. That's all coming up from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 3:34 on 580 Sports Talk. Regarding our bullpen conversation before the break, Joe in the YouTube comments says, can't believe I'm saying this, but give me Chris Bubich and Daniel Lynch.
Yeah,
look,
what a question.
So much of bullpen management is just riding the hot hand. Most bullpens only have like one or two guys as good as like Lucas Erceg is. Everything else is ride the hot hand. Find the right matchup and find the hot hand. The Royals have two guys who I feel really good about getting a 1-2-3 inning right now, and those are Erceg and Bubich. And everything beyond that is just Matt Contreras got to figure out who the hot hand ought to be. We'll give the Bard the last word on last night's bullpen performance. MacArthur and Stratton must stop, he writes in the YouTube comments. Christopher is his display name, but we call him the Bard. MacArthur and Stratton must stop. They should have Pine Sol and a mop. But Chris can't even do that. Worth the ass of a rat, so pay him his option and drop. Yeah, I'm about done with Chris Stratton.
I wish I was as confident
done
as
3
you that
months ago.
I wish I was as confident as you that he's not going to make the postseason roster because I see a guy who's pitched over 57 innings this year and has a team leading 56 appearances, and I think why should I believe now that he's not going to pitch in the biggest moments?
Yeah, go look at like when he's pitching.
Yeah.
That's true. That's the key. It's not the amount of usage, it's when he's being used. And he's unfortunately lately there have been a lot of spots where the Royals have been behind or behind big. And that's when he comes on, the cleanup crew, the human white flag. Random question Tuesday on this edition of the show. When was the last time, or what was a notable time when there was something that was being released, a movie, a TV show, an album, whatever, a piece of pop culture that you were really excited about and it absolutely did not meet your expectations to the point of being a disappointment?
Oh, I've got it. I don't know the name of the album, but Eminem released an album in like 2017.
Man, if you were expecting a good Eminem album in the 2010s, that's kind of on you.
It was supposed to be good, though. It had Walking on Water. I don't remember the name of the rest of the actual album, but it was just not great. Also, another one is I was expecting Apple to release a new MacBook Pro in 2016, the summer, before I went to college. So I didn't get a computer literally until the day before I left because they never released it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah.
Was that Kamikaze?
Yes.
Is that the name of the album? Or Revival?
No, it might have been Revival.
That 18 and 17 respectively.
Yeah. Was Revival.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would probably say Casey Musgrave's 4th album, Star-Crossed. I think today's the anniversary of it being released, I believe. It was good, but her previous album I would give a perfect grade to. I'd give it a 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, whatever. I genuinely believe that Golden Hour was a perfect album. So the next one just being like solid, honestly,
fine.
kind of a letdown. Yeah.
Okay. There was a movie that I'm having to look up the title of. That's how much of a dud that it was. But it was on HBO Max. It was a Denzel Washington movie, The Little Things. Denzel Washington and Rami Malek and Jared Leto. And I thought, man, that looks great. That's going to be great. It was not great.
I'm going to call out here. Turnabout is fair play. If you were expecting a straight to streaming movie with Jared Leto to be great.
Denzel, man, it's Denzel.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto.
Denzel. Denzel never let me down. Wow.
He is great. He does have quite a filmography.
Clayton in the YouTube comments submits the final season of Game of Thrones. I think that's a big answer for a lot of people. I never watched one episode of Game of Thrones.
Me either. Not my thing. I've never watched House of the Dragon. I'm probably not going to name my kid Khaleesi someday. I never got into it.
The people that named their kids Khaleesi kind of regret naming their kids Khaleesi.
I would imagine so. That ain't really my thing. But it is kind of amazing. That went from I'm not going to watch Sunday Night Football so I can watch Game of Thrones to no one spoke about it for 3 years. Yeah. It fell off the map completely.
People like to pretend that final season never happened.
I feel like another one is going to be, I'm not huge into it. I've watched some of it, but not enough to actually go through it, is the completion of this Yellowstone season that's supposed to drop in November.
Okay.
I feel like that might be a disappointment.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of that.
So what was another one? Another one of those Taylor Sheridan shows that's on Paramount. Mayor of Kingstown. Jeremy Renner, Kyle Chandler. Again, loved the cast, loved the premise. Watched 4 episodes. Couldn't hang. Did not like it. Yeah. Anyway, You had a random question for us here, Brendan?
Yeah, I've got a quick one. I'm going to put a rule out here. Keep each part of your answer to one sentence because we eventually have to get to a commercial break. What was the best, and this is inspired by a tweet of yours on Friday, Dan. What is the best high school football game you've ever called and basketball game? Keep one sentence response each.
High school football is a dead tie between the War on 24 last Friday and the Devin Neal Kai Thomas showdown, Topeka High and Lawrence in the high school playoffs. I think it was 19.
Ew.
I think 19.
I think probably 19.
Yeah. Well, maybe 18 because I think Devin was just a junior.
I could have been.
I could be completely wrong. But yeah, either 18 or 19 when Topeka High played Lawrence. And then best basketball game is going to take me a minute. So you guys go ahead and answer.
Why don't we just stick to football? We'll get to basketball later on. What was the best football game you played?
I had my basketball off the top of my head. Nobody's going to know this, but it's Hedgesville versus Martinsburg, two of the legendary coaches in the state of West Virginia going at it. And then for football, it was Hedgesville versus I got off the top of my head now.
Hedgesville was involved, though. Football for me was very easily the 2022 1A state championship game, St. Mary's and Inman. That's one of the greatest sporting events I've ever been to, let alone called, let alone high school.
We have to address this before we go to timeout. Joe in the YouTube comments asks, here's a random question. Did Spencer do a Rush deep dive over the weekend? Over the weekend, no. Yesterday, though.
We started it. We're a few songs in.
Okay.
I can report that I feel like the songs are the same. Like the actual instrumentation behind the songs, I feel like they're just like, I thought I was listening to another song, but I was in fact onto the next song.
That Rush does also a lot of very long songs, so you may have in fact been on the same song.
No, I was on a different song, but then I heard like the same chord progression, or similar at least, and I was like, is this? No, that's a different song.
He started with Spirit of Radio, and we're trying to keep
good starting point.
Yeah, very good starting point. So we'll keep you up to date as we introduce Spencer to the Power Trio from Canada. We're gonna take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, Brendan and I earlier today chatted with Kansas wide receiver Lawrence Arnold. We'll play that chat for you next on 580 WIBW. Kansas Jayhawks are 1-1 entering their Friday night tilt with the Running Rebels of UNLV at Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City. Had their media availability earlier today, which meant Brendan and I had a chance to chat with senior wide receiver Lawrence Arnold, another member of that outstanding receiving trio for the Jayhawk offense. Here's that conversation from earlier this afternoon.
Speaking now with the senior wide receiver for the Kansas Jayhawks, Lawrence L.J. Arnold. The Jayhawks are playing Friday night at Children's Mercy Park this week, taking on UNLV in a rematch of the Guaranteed Rate Bowl from this past season. And Lawrence, obviously disappointing to leave Champaign with a loss last Saturday, but you're always looking to learn and improve regardless of the results. What were the things that you felt like you learned as an offense that you can take away from that Saturday and improve upon as you guys go on this year?
What I've learned in the offense collectively, you can't get too high. I feel like we got a little complacent with where we were and how we left the season last year. And how we kind of started off scoring a lot of points. I think we were a little complacent. So we learned that it doesn't matter how big you get. It doesn't matter the stats that you put up. You always got to have your head down and grind, because at the end of the day, whoever you play, they're grinding as well. And you just got to stay focused and pay attention to the details. We learned that it was little details that beat us. We beat ourselves. So we just had to make sure that we're paying attention to the smallest details and executing everything to our best ability.
As a veteran player on this team, is that the kind of thing that you start modeling as far as leadership behavior in practice and really start getting into those habits in the week of practice leading up to the next game?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's something that I take a lot of pride in. Just making sure that the guys around me know that as a leader, I'm going to do everything I can the right way, so that if they ever have a question, or if anybody ever questions them on if I'm doing it the right way or am I being the right type of leader, the only answer they can give is yes, because everything that I do, I go about it the right way. I take the right steps to put myself in the position to be a good leader, a good teammate, and a good role model to the younger guys.
You've got UNLV on Friday night. The game will be at Children's Mercy Park. It'll be your second game there after you opened the season there against Lindenwood a couple of Thursdays back. What was that atmosphere like playing out at Children's Mercy, and what do you expect it will be like Friday night under the lights against what should be a more tough opponent this time around?
It was great playing there. I think that was my second time being in that stadium, and both times I loved it. The environment was amazing. I love how our fans got there. They packed the place out, and they showed a lot of love, and we're cheering everybody on, and it was just a lot of love, and you could feel the energy from the environment. And I think this week they're going to do the same. I don't think they lost any faith in us because of one loss that we hurt ourselves on. I think they're going to come out, they're going to support, they're going to be loud, cheer us on, and we're going to give them the show that they deserve.
We're chatting with Lawrence Arnold, senior wide receiver for Kansas Jayhawks football here on 580 Sports Talk, ahead of the matchup with UNLV coming up on Friday night in KCK. Lawrence, you are part of a wide receiver group for this Jayhawks team that has put up incredible numbers, has been a part of a lot of wins. You guys are such a core part of this turnaround for the program. You, Luke Grimm, and Quentin Skinner, and you all had different paths to get to where you are now. Quentin was a walk-on. Luke had a really unique recruiting situation. And you at one point had entered the transfer portal but elected to come back to KU, and now you're rocketing up the all-time stat lists at KU. What has the second part of your Jayhawks career been like? When you decided to come back to Lawrence to stay a part of this program, what sort of perspective did that give you as you now head into your veteran seasons?
It gave me a perspective of never give up, and just trust the process. You know, it's hard to trust the process when you're not seeing immediate results. So I wanted immediate results, and I made a quick decision on entering the portal. And I pulled out of the portal because I was just talking to all the guys on the team, and sat down, I talked to Jalen, I talked to Q, I talked to Luke, talked to Devin. You know, I was just talking to all the guys on the team, And it just made me realize, like, these are the guys I want to play with. Like, these are my brothers. They're like, they're almost like my mama had them. So these were the guys I knew I wanted to play with, and I just had to make a decision for myself and pray about it. And once I did that, I realized that this is where I want to be. And ever since I made that decision, the second half of my career has just been great. And then the bond that I built with these guys, these are forever lasting bonds.
We got a chance to talk to Luke last week about his status as soon to be one of the all-time top receivers in terms of catches, yards, touchdowns in KU history. But Lawrence, you're in that exact same group. There's a very real chance that by the time this season is over, you're going to be top 2 or top 3 in receptions and yards and touchdowns in Kansas history, well over 100 years of football. And Lawrence, what does that mean to you to know that if you just keep doing what you're doing, you go about your business, you're going to be up there with the all-time greats statistically in this program's history?
It means a lot to me. Tony Sands came. I want to say he came last year and talked to us, and he talked about how much work he put in and how much time he put in, and just leaving a brick and leaving a foundation here that other people come back and be like, man, I remember when this guy was here and he did X, Y, and Z. And that kind of hit me. It hit different because it was like, I can do something that I know that I can do if I just stay focused and grind and keep my head down and just keep grinding and keep working. And that's something that I did. And knowing that I'm part of a big change in the program and help turn the program around, it made me feel great because now I know that I laid a brick to help this program get to where it's at today. I walk around through the building and see my pictures on the wall. And I was actually talking to Coach Sleeve, like, I think it was yesterday. He was like, man, LJ, we're going to have to name this the LJ building. Your pictures all over the walls in here. I was like, yeah, this goes to show that I put in a lot of time and work here, and it's something that I take a lot of pride in.
When you first got to campus, I mean, frankly, and I'm comfortable saying this because I went to KU as well, Lawrence, but the program was obviously in a much different place than it is now and went from seasons where losing was the norm to now bowl games, talking about a conference title, talking about the college football playoff. That's the norm now at KU. What has that been like to go from you guys kind of being an afterthought in the Big 12 to now being one of the big dogs here in your senior season?
It's an amazing feeling, especially when you stayed in the rain and you stuck through all of the negative comments, the hatred from everybody, to now everybody wants to say like, yeah, Kansas is a football school. Like hearing the transition go from Kansas is a basketball school to, oh, Kansas is a football school and a basketball school. Like just hearing the transition, it was big for a lot of us because, yeah, I was here in 2020 when we didn't win the game. And then the next year we was 2-10. So just being able to see the transition, you see, and you just look at the guys who helped within that transition. You see the development and the growth and the time that a lot of us put into this. And a lot of us could have left and went somewhere else, but we seen the vision and we seen a clear picture of everything. So we all feel for being able to be in a position to help the program succeed and seeing the change.
I've asked you a few times, Lawrence, about the guys who are also in that receiver room. And I'll tell you this, myself and Dan, we have been telling everybody for years now, pay attention to this wide receiver room because these guys are awesome. You've obviously spent so long with Q, with Luke. Tell us a little bit about those two teammates. In fact, tell us something that maybe the rest of the world doesn't know about those guys you see all the time, Luke Grimm and Quentin Skinner.
Those guys, they're like my brothers. When I get married, those are going to be guys who are going to be at my wedding. Just because all of the time that we put in. Something about Q, he's an artist. Q makes music. He loves music. He loves to make music. That's what he do outside of playing football. He makes music. He's in the studio. He's making beats. He's making songs. Like he's a real artist. And Luke is that is my guy. He's a character right there. he's a big golfer. If Luke didn't play football, he would most likely be a professional golfer. Luke is like one of the best golfers, if not the best golfer on the team.
We love hearing stories about this outstanding wide receiver room. Lawrence Arnold, such a big part of it as a senior for these Kansas Jayhawks who take on UNLV Friday night at Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City. LJ, thanks so much for the time. Best of luck. Right the ship against UNLV, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you for having me today.
That's Lawrence Arnold back after this on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Again, we're with you until 5:30 today. We vacate for Royals baseball. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll talk to Michael Swain of Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll have 2 new stories on what is wrong with you. But we'll start with a reaction to Week 1, fully in the books in the National Football League. And boy, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I feel really good about where the Chiefs stand among the AFC favorites after 1 week. That's all coming up on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on a Tuesday. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis hanging out with you on a lovely day in the capital city of Kansas on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream with a fixed camera on 580 Sports Talk, our YouTube channel, and on Facebook as well, WIBW News. However you are consuming the show today, thanks for hanging out with us on 580 Sports Talk. We would invite you to comment in the live chat if you are watching along on YouTube. We'd love to see our listeners interact with each other and with us. You can also hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. Our thanks to LJ Arnold for chatting with Brendan and myself earlier today. Happy to bring you that interview, a KU player profile on the program. If you're a K-State Wildcat fan, tomorrow we'll have Damian Ilalio's conversation with me earlier this week. K-State does their media availability earlier in the week, and we'll make Wednesday a K-State kind of day. Tim Fitzgerald will join us, and we'll play my conversation with the former Manhattan High Indian and now starting defensive tackle for the Wildcats, Damian Ilalio. We will play that conversation for you on tomorrow's program. Later on in this hour, more Jayhawk talk. It's Jayhawk Weekly, in fact, with Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. That's coming up at the bottom of the hour. We have also got another round of What Is Wrong With You still to come. Once again, we are off at 5:30 today to make way for Royals baseball, game 2 of their series against the New York Yankees. 5:30 pregame, first pitch at 6:05 from Yankee Stadium. But we begin this hour with the end of week 1 of the NFL season. Last night, it was all 49ers over the Jets in the Monday Night Football game. It appears to maybe not matter who the running back is for the 49ers. If they can bully you up front and bully you with scheme, which Kyle Shanahan's teams have always been able to do, unless it's the second half of the Super Bowl. And Jordan Mason looked like a superstar last night.
Did you see this story coming out about when he found out he was going to start?
So, yeah, it's not as much a story. It's he admitted it to Lisa Salter. She said, when did you know you were going to start? And he said, Friday. And then everybody freaked out because Christian McCaffrey was just questionable. I'm going to get in front of this. They're not getting in any trouble. I'm not going to tell you guys.
They're not going to get in any trouble.
No.
And when you say everybody freaked out, the people who freaked out were degenerates, fantasy football degenerates, and gambling degenerates. And also like the kid you knew who absolutely begged teachers to let him be the hall monitor. Like, hey, they're skirting the injury report rules. Roger Goodell, please find them a draft pick. Shut up.
Yeah, I mean,
but
also just because he was like questionable, maybe even if he was going to go, they didn't want him to start and play that much.
Exactly. And that's the reason they're not going to get in any trouble, because there's plausible deniability.
Trevor chimes in the YouTube live chat that the McCaffrey's injury, I'm assuming, single-handedly won him his fantasy game. So I am a McCaffrey owner in my main fantasy league, and happened to see like 20 minutes before kickoff he wasn't going to play. So I had an extra roster spot because I had drafted Elijah Mitchell, assuming that was going to be the backup. And of course, now he's on IR. He's not going to play all year. So I had an empty roster spot. I could add a player. I added Jordan Mason. I was down 20 points. I needed every bit of that performance from Jordan Mason to win last night.
No, I mean, it was it was typical Shanahan system stuff, right? Like any old guy at running back can look great at any given time. And that's not a criticism of Jordan Mason. I mean, he was running hard. It wasn't like he was running through these giant wide open holes all night. I mean, he looked really impressive.
Dominic Pooney had a game. I'll tell you what, the former Jayhawk.
Told y'all, he is if Trent Williams is banged up.
I mean, Trent Williams had a hell of a game too.
Yeah, that's enough for them. Because they've gotten by with one good offensive lineman the last couple of years. Pooney might be number 2, because the rest of that line, it's kind of not talked about because the rest of the roster is so good. Their offensive line talent is certainly in the bottom half of the league. I would argue bottom third. They're still starting Colton McKivitz.
Yeah, he's just a guy.
At best. But you had Pooney in there, a guy inside who can move bodies. That's great. What a great story. What a great story for Dominic Pooney.
So, obviously, lots of good stuff for the 49ers. As our resident Aaron Rodgers knower, Brendan.
Yes.
What did you think? Because it looked to me like that was a very one-dimensional passing offense last night. Like, health-wise, it looked like he was moving around better than Kirk Cousins was moving around, which, again, had two-month head start for Rodgers recovering from the Achilles. But, like, if it wasn't a pass to Garrett Wilson, it didn't work. And if it wasn't, like, because
Alan Lazard pass worked.
Well, yeah, the one they caught him on the free play. Yeah. But, like, broadly speaking.
Yeah, he had no catches till the fourth quarter.
Yeah, broadly speaking, that was not an offense that looked super functional for the Jets.
No, their undoing will be the fact that Rodgers can't move. And you're right. I mean, he can move more than Cousins, but also, just generally speaking, Rodgers has always been a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. Like, that's going to be another deciding factor. The arm is there. He had a couple of throws. I mean, he was slinging it, especially early in the game when he was really hooking up with Garrett Wilson when he had those 4 first-quarter catches. Looked great. The decision-making, the accuracy, that stuff is all still there. I've also never, and I've seen 99% of the snaps he's taken in his career, I've never seen him do the little kick when he throws the ball hard. I've never seen that before. That's new, and that's not great. His individual undoing as a player this year will be the fact that he can't move. And even on some of the toss stuff they were doing, it wasn't kind of big turn, lean in, toss. It was get rid of ball as quickly as possible. Like, they are trying. And I actually thought their offensive line played pretty well, all things considered. But he's not very, he was already losing his mobility quite a bit in 2022. Really, even 2021, he had lost a lot of it. But now with this injury, I mean, he's just going to be stuck in the pocket, which means he's going to have to adjust how he plays.
And let's use that as a jumping off point to talk about the rest of the AFC after 1 week. And like I said earlier, I think if you look at this from a perspective of the Kansas City Chiefs after week 1, not to say that the Chiefs were flawless, completely flawless in their game. I mean, they won by a toenail, right, at home. But what I saw from the Chiefs compared to what I saw from the other teams that fancy themselves AFC contenders, there were a lot of contenders who had their flaws laid pretty bare right from the start. Mm-hmm. Whether it was the fact that the Jets are going to be relying on a 40-year-old quarterback off an Achilles injury and an offense that's called by Nathaniel Hackett. Like, that is still a Nathaniel Hackett offense.
Yeah, he still stinks.
Yeah, he's still kind of bad at this. Whether it's Baltimore being, A, overly reliant on their quarterback's legs, and B, not being very good up front, which, I mean, A kind of follows B, to be honest with you. Cincinnati goes and loses inexplicably to New England because they couldn't defend the run and because they did not have a deep passing game. And you wonder if that's a function of Joe Burrow maybe still being hurt, maybe being unable to stretch the field in the way that Cincinnati needs to be able to stretch the field. Buffalo came back and beat Arizona at home, but they were down 2 scores in that game. Again, there's still a lack of playmakers, not named Josh Allen, on that team. And also their secondary, their safety spots are much, much worse than they have been the last couple of seasons. It's a big downgrade Buffalo's made in the secondary. So you look at those 4 teams in particular, the Jets, the Bills, the Bengals, and the Ravens. I thought it was a really disheartening week 1 for those teams, like a troubling week 1 in some ways for those teams. And you're always careful not to overreact, but it is not great when you walk away from week 1 thinking, man, all the things that I thought weren't going to be good or could be troublesome for these teams certainly look troublesome right out of the gate.
So this is going to sound bizarre. The team that I would argue I think I'm the least worried about overall from that group, and Trevor in the YouTube comments, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, he mentions the Bengals looked awful. Sounds like the Miz's theme song, except awful instead of awesome. Do you know what Joe Burrow's record as a starter is in weeks 1 and 2 of the NFL season?
He never wins.
Now, after this week, 1-8. 1-8.
Yeah.
In 9 games in the first 2 weeks of the season. Do you know what his record is in all other games?
It's substantially better.
28-15 and 1. Like, this is just what they do. They just open the season looking like crap.
Well, this is my question then. And Matt Verderame asked this. We talked to our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, yesterday. like, it's one thing to go 0-2 when it's against like the Steelers and whoever it was last year they lost to go 0-2 against. I don't remember. But like, if you go to 0-2 and one of the games you lose to is the Chiefs at Arrowhead.
Last year, it was the Browns and the Ravens, who you could argue were defenses number 2 of the 3 best defenses in the league last year.
If one of the games you lose to is a team that is supposed to, on paper, be the worst team in the AFC, and then the next team you lose is to the team that is the best in the AFC. And what if it gets ugly at Arrowhead on Sunday? Then, like, you've got the lingering displeasure of Jamar Chase, the lingering injury to T. Higgins, who right now we have no idea if he's going to make it to week 2. Early suggestion is he may not, but, we'll see as the week goes on. It's obviously a defense that's taken a step back, and it's an offense that has taken a step back. Joe Mixon's not walking through that door. Tyler Boyd is no longer receiver number 3. That is a diminished football team, and if they come out 0-2 and Burrow looks like he's iffy throwing the ball down the field, like, that could get ugly in Cincinnati.
It could. Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I am going to bank on it not getting to that point. Also, don't forget they have a new offensive coordinator.
This is true.
Because Brian Callahan is now in Tennessee as their head coach, along with Bill, his dad. They're one of the greatest offensive line coaches of all time. So, yeah, there are plenty of changes there. I'm going to bank on the past experience of them winning a lot of games, but I think you also have to consider the fact that who knows how healthy Burrow's wrist actually is. There's no guarantee that is 100% right now. I am actually going to change my answer here. I am not the least worried about Cincinnati. I still think they are going to end up being fine. I am not worried about Buffalo's offense. I've gone completely 180. I'm not worried about their offense.
I'm more worried about Cincinnati. I think that what you said about Burrow's ability to throw, I think is being hindered by his wrist.
He was really scared.
Yeah.
On Sunday.
I don't know if it's scared or it's like, this is not working. Like, my wrist is not doing what it should do.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same. Like, I don't think he was constantly throwing short of the sticks. Like, 1st and 10, short of the sticks. 2nd and 8, short of the sticks. 3rd and 6, short of the sticks.
Yeah.
Like, not pushing it at all. And this is a guy who has essentially built the Bengals offense himself into what he's comfortable with. Spread it out. Intermediate stuff, power slot with Jamar Chase. We're never going to do play action. We're never going to go under center because I don't like turning my back to the defense, but moving the ball in chunks. He didn't do any of that. That was not even, it didn't even look like it was part of the game plan. Frankly, it looked like they were designed to check downs half the time. So I think it is totally fair to be worried about that. Totally fair on that part.
Flip side, the Texans. They look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
29-27 win over the
Ran
Colts.
the ball really well.
Ran 30 times. Joe Mixon got 30 carries.
And held up.
You don't see running backs get 30 carries in a game anymore.
So it was sort of overlooked last year, but the Texans did try to run a bunch last season. Bobby Slowick, who is their offensive
almost
coordinator.
Too much. It was criticized that they ran it too much, particularly on first down.
Because, like, hey, use C.J. Stroud's arm. Use that guy. But they ran a lot. Bobby Slowick, their offensive coordinator, is a Shanahan disciple, so very heavily run influenced. But they had a guy in Dameon Pierce who worked really well under the previous system. And then he was in the Slowick system, and he looked terrible. And they didn't have anyone else who had any juice. I don't even consider Joe Mixon like a juice guy, but he fits this a lot better. It's a much more natural fit. And again, it makes sense. Where Joe Mixon was in Cincinnati for the last several years, who is his offensive coordinator? Brian Callahan, his head coach, Zach Taylor. Who did those guys previously work for? Shanahan and McVay.
Yeah.
All these things are so tied in together. Now he's in that system still with a better offensive line, or no worse at offensive line, and he cooked. And I thought C.J. Stroud was not perfect, but pretty good. He was 9 for 9 on 3rd and 4th down in the game.
That was a really impressive proof of concept game for what they've tried to build around CJ Stroud as far as the additions this offseason, because not only did Joe Mixon enhance their ground game substantially, like they didn't have anybody as good as him last year. Stephon Diggs was a difference maker in the passing game, was a big target for them on 3rd down, caught a touchdown, and really seemed to complement the other guys that they've got at the wide receiver and tight end spots there for the Texans. For me, they were probably the team that I came away most impressed with in the AFC, and most felt like, boy, what they did going on the road and beating what I think is going to be a pretty decent Colts team. And, I mean, leading by 2 scores until the very end when the Colts got a touchdown in the waning moments to make it tight. I thought that was maybe as impressive a performance as we saw from any team this past week.
From the AFC, I would agree.
For the rest of you guys, give me one team in the league that really impressed you to the point where you said after week 1, this team's got a chance to be maybe even better than I thought they were going to be. Who was the most impressive for you in week 1?
Tampa, pretty easily for me.
I was going to say watching them, I was impressed because I watched that game more than I watched anything else.
And look, I know that Washington secondary is
garbage.
I was going to go with a work in progress, but
no,
yes,
Emmanuel Forbes is straight garbage.
It's not a good unit, and the coverage just isn't very good. So, but you want your quarterback to pick that apart. You say, hey, you're a former number 1 pick. We just paid you all this money this offseason. We want you to go ball out. And Baker did, and he looked confident. Did you know he's got now 7 offensive coordinators in 7 NFL seasons?
Wow.
And the amazing thing is he's working with a guy he's worked with before in Liam Cohen, but still changed this offseason. Cohen had been with him in Los Angeles for half a year 2 seasons ago. Then last year he was working with Dave Canales, now the Panthers head coach. And now Cohen got the job as the offensive coordinator in Tampa. Surprising. You give this guy some consistency, he can play. He's never going to be a top 5 quarterback, but the dude can play. They've still got Evans. Chris Godwin looked healthy. He looked great. And that defense under Todd Bowles, as many gripes as I have with him as a head coach, his defenses will always be really good.
I think another team, and it's hard to tell because a lot of teams this week played bad opponents. Like there was just a lot of teams that you expected to be good to play bad opponents. Yes, but what I like the performance. I think they're doing better than I had anticipated, but it was against the Giants as the Vikings.
Yeah, Trevor agrees with you in the YouTube live chat. The Vikings, like Sam Darnold,
19 of 24,
finally played like a top pick, maybe the first time in his career.
I have been vindicated.
So the thing about the Vikings is I think they're really well coached.
I agree.
I am starting to believe that Kevin O'Connell is the kind of coach that like baseline is going to be a borderline playoff team. Like you're never going to be really, really bad unless there's a total injury apocalypse when your coach is Kevin O'Connell. Like I think offensively, particularly, he's going to find ways to make things work. So I'm not necessarily shocked that Darnold had a good game. We'll see if it holds up. Jason submits in the YouTube live chat, the Buccaneers and even the Saints who mollywopped the Panthers.
Yes, they did.
I think that's more about the Panthers. I think that is a disaster.
Yeah.
And I really liked Bryce Young in college, but it might be getting late early for Bryce Young because like he doesn't play with any kind of confidence and he's not like built to take a beating or take all that many hits in general. So, man, it's got to start looking better in a hurry, I think, for Bryce Young. Real quick, give me one team we talked about among the AFC contenders who we were maybe most concerned about after week 1. Give me one team in the rest of the league that after week 1 you're going, oh, uh-oh.
It's probably not super fair to say the Rams. There's no shame in losing in overtime on the road to the Lions, who some people are picking as a Super Bowl team. Like, there's no shame in that. They're losing so many dudes. They've got nobody at corner. Trey White's done. It's over. He can't cover anybody. He's got no burst left after all those injuries. They've lost multiple cornerbacks. They lost another offensive lineman this week. Steve Avila is going on, is going on injured reserve. Puka Nacua is going on injured reserve. They've already had injuries at both of their starting tackle spots. Like and they traded their best linebacker the week before the season started for nothing. They got nothing back for Ernest Young. So I just don't think they have bodies to compete, which is a bummer because I picked them to win the division.
Spencer?
This is a hard one because, like I said, there was just a lot of bummer games this week. I think the Colts are going to be better than I had anticipated.
Okay.
I didn't think they were going to be that good.
That's fair.
Like, I didn't think they were going to be as good enough to compete with the Texans, but they were only lost by 2. And Richardson looks really good.
Yeah. No, great arm. Unbelievable arm talent. Maybe a top 5 arm in the league. Like,
it's top 3.
By the end of the year, I mean, we could put him in a real good conversation in the top half of the league.
Absolutely. Trevor landed on my answer, the Falcons. Kirk Cousins looks like
he's
a
done.
mummy.
Yeah, he can't move. like if you're not going to use play action, start Michael Penix, because Kirk Cousins' entire thing is he's great on play action.
But here's the
His
thing.
whole thing.
Here's the thing, though. You can't play Penix. You can't play Penix because optics. You can't give it.
No, the optics are so bad.
So the funny thing about that, though, the narrative to me has flipped. Michael Penix was not the wrong move. $100 million guaranteed to Kirk Cousins was the wrong move, because you banked on a 36-year-old with no Achilles. And now you can't even do the one thing he's legitimately great at.
Yeah. Now you're asking him to become a completely different quarterback in his late 30s because the mobility is totally gone. And not like it was ever like part of his game to begin with.
But he could at least drop back and turn. They had to play this dude in the pistol.
Stepping into throws, like basic stuff, stepping into throws. Yeah, he couldn't do that. That was gross.
Correct you where he played in the pistol a little bit in Washington.
Fair. It's
they didn't completely. Yeah, I mean, they didn't
long
completely
time.
abandon the RG3 offense when he came in.
It's 7 years though. Like it's been a minute.
So yeah, the Falcons to me were a team where I came in and I really liked their defensive upgrades, and I thought Cousins would be an upgraded quarterback. They got some really nice skill pieces. I thought they could make that shake in that division. I don't know, man. That was really, really grim.
Great weekend for the Bucs.
Yes, really, really good weekend to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan. We'll take a break here at 580 Sports Talk. We got Michael Swain coming up bottom of the hour first. A round of What Is Wrong With You on 580 WIBW. So what is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? Two news stories today competing against our current weekly champion, which Jeffrey in the YouTube comments dubbed the Mile High Flub. The woman who was banned from flying on American Airlines and didn't find out why for another 2 weeks when they told her it was because she'd had sex with a dude on an airplane, which was news to her because she doesn't swing that way. She's a lesbian. So it was obviously not her for many reasons, and had to get her name cleared and get off of the no-fly list from American Airlines. That's our current winner, not the woman in question. The folks at American Airlines are the what is wrong with you here. I will go first with my story today. We are going to Las Vegas, where a convenience store clerk beat a guy within an inch of his life with a baseball bat because he was taking too much nacho cheese. 47-year-old Myron Bully was arrested last week on suspicion of attempted murder and battery with a deadly weapon. The incident occurred the early morning of Tuesday, September 3rd, at the Arco gas station at Rainbow Boulevard and Russell Road in Las Vegas. Officers found the victim lying near the sidewalk with his face covered in blood. He was suffering from 2 different brain bleeds, multiple skull and facial bone fractures. They were considered to be life-threatening injuries at the time. Obviously, person survived, otherwise would be what is wrong with you. Person who called 911 told police he saw the victim on the ground while pumping gas and asked the clerk to call 911. The clerk responded, "I'm not going to call 911. He better have learned a lesson." The clerk, Bully, told officers...
Fitting.
Yes, very fitting. Told officers he was upset the victim took too much cheese from the nacho cheese machine, so he told the victim to leave and not break things. The victim left, but returned a few minutes later and said he wouldn't leave without his nachos, so Bully hit him with a baseball bat. As police took him into custody, Bully complained that the victim, quote, started talking bleep. He said he hit the man twice, but police reviewed surveillance video and saw that Bully hit him multiple times. Preliminary hearing scheduled for September 23rd.
So is this guy the owner of the convenience store, or is he just a clerk?
Just a clerk.
Dog, they do not care about you nearly enough for you to care that much.
No.
I'm going to tell you that right now.
No, you do not need to be the defender of the nacho cheese. You do not need to be the nacho cheese police.
Yikes.
Just let them take as much as they want, as long as they pay, even if they don't. Collect your
not worth a baseball bat shot.
Collect your money at the end of the day, man.
Not worth giving a guy a brain bleed.
Spencer, take us to Florida.
Yes. We're going back. We had a story like this over the summer, if you guys can remember, where a man hid in a ceiling.
Yes.
A man attempted to evade. We're born in Palm Coast, Florida. A man attempted to evade arrest by hiding in the attic of his Palm Coast home. The Flagler County Sheriff's Office said on August 30th, Michael Allison thought he could hide from deputies in his house on Piedmont Drive. According to the deputies, he was wanted on a felony violation of a probation warrant for unlawful possession of a controlled substance and driving with a suspended license. Deputies saw that Allison entered the home on Piedmont Drive and knocked on the door and windows, announcing themselves to Allison and why they were at his home. After knocking multiple times, the sheriff's office said deputies entered the home in search of Allison. After looking around, deputies learned that Allison was hiding in the attic. Deputies told Allison to come down. He eventually did 30 minutes later, extremely dehydrated. The 37-year-old was treated at the hospital, then taken to the county jail. This guy decided to try and hide in the attic during a Florida summer. If you're a criminal in Flagler County, there's nowhere to hide from the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Staley said. I hope he enjoyed his attic sauna, but now he's in the Green Room Inn.
Got him.
Green Roof Inn. I commend our deputies for talking him out of a hot attic peacefully before he hurt himself in the heat.
So what did he think was going to happen? They watched him enter his house. Did they think he disappeared?
Yeah.
Did they think he was David Copperfield? No, man. They're going to search every nook and cranny because there's so many places you can hide a person.
Yeah.
In a house.
In a house.
That's a good story. I do not think it beats the defender of the nacho cheese. In fact, I think I'm going to call that one a winner for the week.
I think so too.
Yeah.
The nacho cheese defender.
The nacho Nazi from the 913 on the Top City Metal Supply text line.
Good name. Good name. We'll consider it. We'll take it under consideration. That's our new winner on What Is Wrong With You. Michael Swain joins us next from fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. That's where Michael's KU coverage appears. Subscribe today. Become a VIP member to get all the best KU information. And he joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, tough loss for KU in Champaign. What to you was the biggest frustration from that performance in KU's inability to come out of Champaign with a win?
Yeah, I think probably watching Jalen Daniels. I don't like the word regress because that speaks to a trend. I think seeing Jalen just have a bad game, right? I think it's been a long time since he has had a stinker, if you want to put it that way, right? I think you think back to last year, he played really well against Illinois, was so against Nevada, and then was just fine against BYU in that game. And even going back to, the 2022 season, before his injury, he didn't have any super bad games. And this was a game where I just looked at, in real time and even, watching the game back a couple times now, it's very clear that this was just an off game for Jalen Daniels. And I think that is probably a frustrating thing for KU fans, right? Considering the fact that this is a guy that has been so good and has had such high, peaks during his time at KU, to see him at a crucial point for KU, right? You're starting the season off. You're really trying to build some momentum early in the year with a road game at a Big Ten school. It's a sellout, really big game for the opponent. And to lay an egg like that, I think is probably going to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. So for me, I think that was probably the most disappointing aspect of the performance from KU.
Devin Neal only getting 14 carries was fairly surprising. It certainly sounded...
Let's be blunt about this. It was dumb.
It certainly sounded like Jeff Grimes understood that maybe that was a flaw in the execution of the game plan when he spoke to the media earlier today. What do you think can change moving forward as far as how Kansas manages games, manages their touches for their best guys, that can make what happened on Saturday at Illinois a bit of a learning experience for everyone?
Yeah. So I think with the whole discourse around Devin, right? Obviously, you watched him in the first half, and he's stellar. And even a couple of touches he got right in the second half, he was good. But you look at the numbers, guys, and he was averaging 3.6 yards a carry in the second half. So it wasn't like KU was going out in the second half and just going crazy in the run game. I think Illinois was very smart in the way that they approached this game plan, where they basically decided to put 7 guys in the box, because the way that KU runs their offense, it's a lot of one tight end and, 1 + 5 is 6, and they're putting 7 in there. So it's showing you a look to go and pass the ball. And I think for KU, it's about finding that right balance. And I think at times they found a good balance. And I think at other times it got a little too pass happy for my liking. And I think that Grimes today, right, said that he knows that, Devin and Daniel need to get the ball more. And I think it's just one of those situations of how do you balance knowing what the defense is trying to make you to do in terms of the way you're going to call a game or the way you're going to run some of the RPO stuff and option stuff you do run, and also kind of sticking to your guns and saying, we believe in our guys. Because I think even on some of those looks where Illinois did have 7 guys in the box, you look at the way KU's offensive line was pushing guys around, you felt okay about their ability to at least create an opportunity. And with the way Devin was making guys miss, you can see the chance where, hey, you give this guy opportunities. And at one point, you feel pretty good that Devin Neal is going to make the guy miss and go get you 15, 20 yards. So I think this week is going to be a really interesting one because of UNLV and what they do, right? They did a really good job of stopping Houston. Obviously, Houston looks awful. So it's hard to read into that too much, but I think this is a UNLV team that's going to sell out and stopping KU's run game again and try to make Jalen Daniels win the game with his arm. And so I'm really fascinated to see how KU tries and balances that, knowing that this offensive line, I think just physically, guys, this might be the best offensive line I've seen KU have in a very, very, very long time. They just went on the road and I think really controlled the trenches against an Illinois front 5, front 4, front 3, depending on the snap. But they really went and controlled that game at the point of attack, which is super encouraging.
Michael Swain joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. He does it every Tuesday at this time. You can check all of Michael's work out at fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. And, of course, make sure you're following him on Twitter if you're on social media, at mswain247. And speaking of Jalen Daniels' arm, Michael, the screens, the incessant number of tunnel screens. It felt like a David Beatty era game in the first half against Illinois. Cleaned up in the second half. I thought KU did a much better job of moving the ball down the field, using the strengths of Luke Grimm, Lawrence Arnold, and Quentin Skinner. But to be so screen and behind the line, low ADOT passing in the first half, is that more just what Jeff Grimes wants to do? I know you've studied a lot of his tendencies. Is that more just something he wants to do a lot? Is that trying to protect Jalen Daniels as he still gets back to full strength? Or is it as simple as that was the game plan, it didn't work, and they'll scrap it next time?
Well, I think there's always going to be some screen game stuff, right? That's just what Jeff Grimes has done. And I can understand some of it. Throwing a screen pass to Jared Casey on 2nd and 17 when you're looking to move the ball in a 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. That one for me, I'm like, what are we doing here? This is not going to work under any circumstance. But some of them I can understand, right? You look at, so a good example here is going to be the pick six for Jalen Daniels. That was the correct play and read given what the look was on defense. Jared Casey just missed a block, and that is pretty simple, where if you're going to throw a screen pass, you got to block it well, or else it's going to have the chance to be intercepted. And I think that is a play that if Jared is able to block like he is supposed to, I think play goes for a little bit, and so I think it's for KU, you got to find the right guys. Like, does LJ Arnold need to be catching screen passes? I don't really think so. I mean, Quentin Skinner, should he? Maybe if it's one of those where he gets to running head start, maybe. Like, I think KU's guys that maybe should get those screen passes are Luke Grimm, maybe someone like Trevor Wilson. And I think that should be maybe the extent of it. So I'm really interested to see how KU pivots. I think the way that Illinois played things with the man coverage and one high safety, you can understand how wanting to get the ball out to the perimeter where you got guys in space and making them miss because there's not a bunch of 2-3 safeties in the back like it is against an Iowa State or a Baylor. So, I can understand to some degree why KU is trying that. And I think you got to give the coaches credit for kind of bailing on it in the second half, but it is one of those where it felt a little excessive at times in the first half.
Defensively, I thought it was a really strong game for KU. First time in the Leipold and Brian Borland era, they've held a Power 4 or Power 5 opponent under 300 yards. Bummer that it came in a losing effort. I really was impressed by a few individuals in particular, but as a unit as well. How'd you feel, Michael, about the defensive effort on Saturday?
Yeah, I thought really good. The trenches were always going to be an issue, or not an issue, a question for me heading into this season, right? Mm-hmm. How do you replace Pooney and Nowitzki on the offensive line? Seems like they've done that. How do you replace Austin Booker and some of the defensive tackles KU lost on the defensive line? And for me, the most encouraging aspect of this game on defense for KU is guys like Tommy Dunn, Caleb Taylor, Blake Harold going out there and having really, really good games. Because you look at the physical level that this Illinois offensive line plays at. It is as physical as KU will face in the Big 12 this year because Texas and Oklahoma are no longer in the conference and KU doesn't play Utah. So you feel really good all of a sudden now about this defensive front and their ability to play physical football. And that is so positive because I think at times we've seen the flashes from KU's defensive line in years past, the ability at times to play physical football. But then it feels like sometimes it all kind of unravels. And we've seen, right, when KU gets the run or when teams run the ball against KU well, everything kind of falls apart. And so the fact that this defensive front seven looked so athletic and physical at the same time against Illinois is super positive. And so that's just such a huge key. And now there's going to be a different test this week because Illinois is a north to south physical team. UNLV is an east to west, we're going to move you a speed type of team. And so we're going to see a different challenge for KU this week. And after this week, I think we'll have a really good idea of where this defense is at because we'll have seen them play different styles and different teams that pose different questions. So for me coming out of this week, right, I'm fired up about the D-line. I feel really good about that group right now and the linebackers too in there.
Speaking of the linebackers, let's get to that because last week I told you that I thought my biggest X factor on defense was going to be Cornell Wheeler. You said Dean Miller. I thought both of them played really well against Illinois. Both played really well, obviously, in the game against Lindenwood. You would expect that in week one. How impressed have you been? You had told us already going into the season, Michael, that those were two guys to watch. Those were two guys who had great camps, were going to be contributors. But through two games, specifically through the week 2 contest against Illinois, how impressed have you been by the progression of those two?
Yeah, well, Brendan, you were right. I think you went out on that one. All right, let's see what happens this week. I think Cornell definitely had
Thank you.
a really stellar game. I thought he was all over the place. Loved the way that he was tackling and really getting in the position to make those tackles square on, not tackling from the side, but hitting guys dead on. I think both of those guys had really good games. I think for me, Dean Miller on passing downs, you really want to see him flash there. It's on first and second down. You want to see him hold his own. And I thought he did a pretty good job of holding his own. And now it's about building off that and being a much more prevalent passing threat, because it didn't feel like KU's pass rush was able to get home as much. But then I looked at some of the stats and you're like, okay, I mean, tackles for loss, they had 9. Sacks, I think they had just a couple. So it's one of those situations where I think for Dean Miller, right, continue to be a pass rush threat. And for Cornell, I mean, can you just keep doing this? Like what he has done over the first 2 weeks is really impressive, and he's getting guys in the right spot. And for KU, you need your middle linebacker to be the commander of the defense, but also a guy that goes there and makes plays. And I think he's done both of those through 2 weeks.
We're joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports here on 580 Sports, talking the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. And it's football season, but some unsettling news came out about the Kansas Jayhawks basketball team, particularly a new transfer in Shaquille Moore. He could miss up to 8 weeks after he broke his foot in a pickup game. Is it how serious is the injury? Do you know?
Well, I mean, he had surgery, so he is now. He had surgery 2 weeks ago, I want to say. I don't have my notes in front of me, but yeah. So it's a pretty big deal here, because I think you're looking at this team right now. And the one spot you were might actually have some sneaky depth. It was at point guard, right? Because you got DeJuan Harris and then Shaquille Moore had a really, really good summer. And now I don't think he'll be ready for the start of the season. Now does that mean that, he's going to be out till December? No, I don't think so. I think it'll be early mid-November when he returns. But then, I mean, you're talking about a guy that wouldn't have done boot camp, wouldn't have done much practice with the team, because he has had this injury since the start of classes. And so he'll be a little bit behind. So it'll be a crash course for him during non-conference play to really get up to speed. So it's an unfortunate injury. Obviously, the addition of, Coit is going to be pretty important for KU here. I'm not sure if you want him being the one that's running the point all the time, but I think now in practice, he's going to get all the opportunities now to try and run some of the point with DeJuan Harris when he's on the bench. So an unfortunate injury. Man, it feels like it's been a long time since there's been a KU offseason that has been entirely smooth without something going on. So I guess we'll have to wait till next year to see if that could be the year.
All right, Michael Swain of Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly. We got one more minute here. We started with football. We'll end with football. KU and UNLV Friday night at Children's Mercy Park. Rematch of the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. I don't think UNLV has quite as much top-end offensive talent as they did last year. Still have that standout wide receiver, but I don't think they're quite as good at quarterback. What to you is the biggest thing you need to see from Kansas to feel good about their chances of winning and the team moving forward?
Yeah, so 2 things. I think in the offense, kind of find that right rhythm. I just think that Illinois was one of those situations where quarterback doesn't play well, mistakes at the worst times, and now you're looking, all right, can Jalen Daniels look like Jalen Daniels? If he does, I'll feel pretty good. Defensively for KU, can they deal with the speed and the way that UNLV is going to ask questions about KU's defensive front? Because there's going to be some option looks at their new quarterback, and they're going to try and put pressure on KU, make guys think, not let them play fast. So I think if KU can go out of this game, obviously winning, but with the offense playing pretty well, right? Jalen Daniels looking like himself, and then the defense really handling that team speed, I'll feel pretty good about KU going into the West Virginia on the road the week after.
Michael Swain covers the Jayhawks at Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and joins us every week for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Michael, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys. Talk to you next week.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take one final break, come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. You guys catch this quote from Mike Gundy about his second string linebacker who had to step in for the injured Colin Oliver, one of his best players who's going to miss at least a month?
Oh, I sure did.
He was talking about Obi Eziigbo. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, and I apologize for that. But he's a transfer from Division II. And Mike Gundy said about him, quote, "Do you want me to go back into coach talk or do you want the truth? He was very inexpensive. The number of players that we go after that were ready to play at this level, we can't afford."
Two quick things about Mike Gundy. One, and Mike, I thought you were done talking about NIL now that the games were here. You made it pretty clear you didn't want to talk about money and buying players anymore when the season started. That's interesting. Also, good God, does anyone whine more than this guy?
No. Nobody whines more than Mike Gundy.
Dude, we get it. You don't like that players can get NIL money. Understand, you will not let us forget about it. Get over it.
This would have never happened if T. Boone Pickens were still alive. About money cannon like you wouldn't believe.
That's a fact.
We got headlines, a Royals preview. We're done at 5:30 today on this edition of 580 Sports Talk.
Federal Weather Center.
WIBW Topeka.
Let's get it. Final half hour of this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. We are with you until 5:30. We'll pass the baton to the Royals Baseball Network. Game 2 of 3 in the series between the Royals and the Yankees in the Bronx. Tonight, first pitch at 6:05. So we'll have the pregame coming up at 5:30. It'll be the same tomorrow as well. There's only one more midweek Royals day game this season. This regular season.
Wow.
I need to specify.
Yeah, and it's against the Washington Nationals.
It is. It's the last full week of the regular season. They have a Thursday game against Washington.
And it might be the Royals killing Patrick Corbin for his final career game as a Washington National.
They might stone him to death.
Yeah.
Leave him a corpse on the mound. Tonight, though,
I don't know if that still lines up, though. I had to have to double check.
Tonight, though, it's game 2 between the Royals and the Yankees. Yankee took the opener last night by a 10-4 final score. Seth Lugo will try to right the ship tonight and get back on track after the Royals had their 4-game winning streak snapped. It is Marcus Stroman on the mound for the Yankees. I can't believe Marcus Stroman is 33 years old. Maybe it's because he's not like very tall. Like what? I don't think he's
a short man.
He's listed at 5'8", which I'm not all that tall myself.
Looks like a child.
I think I'm taller than Marcus Stroman.
You could pet him on the head.
Maybe that's the reason that I just perpetually think of him as being a young guy, but nah, he's 33. He's been around for 10 years.
Yeah, I've lived through the Marcus Stroman experience.
Yes, you have. Former Cub.
And hey, for half of last season, dude was great. And then I don't know what happened, and he sucked. The going is great when he's on. And then as soon as he's not, the experience of Marcus Stroman really wears thin really quickly. So, yeah, he's gettable. I will tell you that much. He is gettable. Get ready to learn ground ball, buddy.
Yeah.
Maybe
he's a contact guy, and he's striking out fewer than he's ever struck out before in a season.
And he's never struck out that many guys.
No, he's never been a big strikeout guy in the first place.
Yeah. By the way, I was just looking at the Royals schedule. They are packing in event days for the final homestand next week.
As they should.
Every single day, every game of the 6-game homestand. They've got the Price Chopper Day. That's every Monday. Irish Heritage Night, Oktoberfest, or German Heritage Night, Viva Los Royals, Fan Appreciation Night, and Sidewalk Chalk giveaway. There's everything that's left. Oh, what have we not got? Irish Heritage.
Why would you not give away Sidewalk Chalk earlier when your children can use it in the summer months? I thought that was a summer thing.
Well, Dan.
Maybe it's I don't know.
It's a great
Is
question.
it going to keep? Does that Sidewalk Chalk keep?
Who knows?
I don't know. My own child is not yet anywhere close to Sidewalk Chalk years old, so I don't really know how well that stuff keeps.
He'd probably eat it. I don't know that.
Definitely put it in his mouth.
Yeah, there you go. We're out of here early today. We're out of
tomorrow.
And tomorrow.
And on Friday, we're done at 5.
Done early on Friday. And then the last week of the season, we're out early a bunch.
Yeah.
When they go to DC and Atlanta. Man,
that's right.
Royals really don't want to listen to the show.
Apparently, they want us.
We've been nice to you guys. We this call.
We have, and we're doing less of the show because of them. So.
I was going to say we've reached our last 580 Sports Talk overtime, but we're for Royals baseball we have, but not forever.
No,
correct.
Because we do have one
definitely not forever.
Well, for the rest of this year,
Thursday night football.
Have one Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday night when we have Thursday night football broadcasts, and when we have high school broadcasts like high school football on Friday night, we'll have some overtime.
Hey, by the way, we have Thursday night football this week.
We do. Great segue. We
Surprise!
We do have a Thursday night high school football game this week. It is 580 Preps Thursday night football presented by Lewis Toyota. Spencer Dupuis and myself will be in the booth at Hummer Sports Park as the 1-0 Topeka High Trojans have already matched their win total from last season after they spanked Wichita West on the road last week. They will take on Wichita Heights at Hummer on Thursday night.
Winless Wichita Heights.
That's right. Heights lost to Wichita East in their opener. So Trojans trying to make it 2-0. They got a chance.
Yeah, that'd be great for that program.
Yeah. Kickoff at 7 o'clock on Thursday night. Spencer Dupuis on the call. Yours truly providing color analysis.
Hummer Sports Park. Really cool venue. Where all the, I'm sure Dan's filled you in, where all the 501 schools play. Yeah. Really nice park.
Yes.
And really I heard at some point this year They are putting up a banner for Najee Kennedy.
For Najee Kennedy?
Najee Kennedy,
I had not heard that. We'll have to
because they like inducted her into the County Sports Hall of Fame or something, or will induct her in the county. I don't know. I heard something about it.
We'll have to keep an eye out for that. Then Friday night, our Lewis Toyota Game of the Week will be over on Classic Country 106.9, mycountry1069.com. We'll be right back at Hummer Sports Park, Topeka West, playing host to Shawnee Heights in United Kansas Conference action. The rare anymore city versus city matchup on the gridiron. We'll have the broadcast for you starting at 6:45, 7 o'clock kickoff. Myself, Greg Akagi, Spencer Dupuis on the call Friday night.
Okay, so I have filled in the details of Spencer's anecdote from a moment ago.
Okay, yeah, they were a little spare.
Okay, so Nyjah is going to have a banner with her number 24 hung at Hummer Sports Park.
Okay.
She is having her Topeka High softball jersey retired.
That's okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yes, I think that is a smart move for the best softball player in America.
Yeah.
Good decision. Great choice for Najee Kennedy. While we're doing housekeeping stuff, because I want to make sure this gets out there, I believe it is K-State this weekend.
Yes.
That is not going to be on 580.
Yeah, so Friday night we got a bit of a airtime log jam, but everybody will be on the air. Of course, we'll have Royals baseball from Pittsburgh on Friday night here on 580 WIBW. That moves high school football over to Classic Country 106.9 KTPK FM. It also moves K-State, because remember, the Wildcats, just like the Jayhawks, play Friday night this week.
Boo.
A 7 o'clock kickoff at Bill Snyder Family Stadium against Arizona. 5 o'clock pregame coverage. That game will be on our other sister station, the big 94.5 Country, 94.5 WIBW FM. The entire broadcast will be heard over on 94.5 on the FM dial. So
looks like K-State's going to be on there in a couple weeks too, right?
Yes, the week after the
BYU game.
Yes, the BYU game will be a late game. Royals play that Saturday night. So yes, but we were just talking about this Friday for now. So yes, Royals 580, Cats 94.5, high school football 106.9 this Friday night.
During commercial breaks, you can just tune the dial and listen to each one.
Yes, you can just flip back and forth. You flip radio channels.
Yeah, like the old days.
Yeah. Well,
get those preset buttons going.
Yeah. P1, P2, P3. You're all set. What you don't need anything more than that. Let's get into some headlines, shall we? Our 580 Sports Talk headlines, how we open every 5 o'clock hour. And we'll start with another lawsuit against the NCAA regarding NIL rights. And this is a sizable one. 4 former University of Michigan football players, including former quarterback Denard Robinson and wide receiver Braylon Edwards, have filed a class action lawsuit against both the NCAA and the Big Ten Network, seeking more than $50 million for being wrongfully and unlawfully denied the opportunity to earn money off of their name, image, and likeness. The lawsuit says that the NCAA and the Big Ten Network have systematically exploited these iconic moments that players created during their careers at Michigan. The lawsuit is on behalf of those who played for Michigan before 2016. Now, the NCAA has already taken one L in court on this. Back in May, you'll recall that they agreed to settle the 3 major antitrust lawsuits that threatened to upend the business model of college sports. And the NCAA and its power conferences agreed to pay roughly $2.7 billion in damages. Any Division I athlete who played a sport from 2016 to present day is eligible for past damages in that settlement. The 2016 cutoff is due to the statute of limitations on the initial lawsuit, which was filed in 2020. So this is a civil class action lawsuit on behalf of those who played for Michigan before 2016. The other former Wolverines in the lawsuit, defensive end Mike Martin, linebacker Sean Crable. All were really good players. Robinson was Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. Edwards won the Blitnikoff Award in 2004 before a lengthy NFL career. Sharks in the water. And the NCAA, again, we've said it once, we've said it 100 times, has no one to blame but themselves for any legal action that they face regarding name, image, and likeness, because they could have gotten in front of all of this when it became clear that their business model was now $1 billion model. And they chose not to, because as it turns out, business people, the people with power, really like when you don't have to pay labor.
You think this is going to go anywhere?
maybe like I don't know if this one necessarily does, but I think that just all of the weight of all of these lawsuits, because there are a bunch of them out there. The weight of all of them is what is eventually going to cause the NCAA to have to operate differently or just fold.
No, I don't disagree with any of that. I don't know about the merits of this one in particular. Go for it. I'm not going to beef with them on trying to make it work by any means. Look, this is very selfish of me to say, because if you're being screwed over, go get yours. Okay, I do believe that. However, I just want it to stop, man. Like, football and basketball are not even, are they even in the top 5 most commonly talked about college sports things anymore? Lawsuits and already settled lawsuits,
conference
and
realignment,
or my personal favorite, like normies, normal people, everyday Joes trying to pretend like they're TV executives and like cosplaying as John Skipper at ESPN and well, we need to protect this package. Let me put all this together. And the Big 12, if they want to do, shut up.
Talking about programming windows.
Pick up a football nerd.
Brands
God.
And yeah, it's
just not for me, man. I can't do it.
It
anymore.
has detracted dramatically from the time we actually spend talking about the games. And that's why it's nice that the games are here so that we do have games to talk about. Like the season is underway. Yeah. But yeah, no, I get where you're coming from.
Yes. Oh, it's exhausting. By the way, you know how long Braylon Edwards played in the NFL?
Gosh, at least a decade.
No.
Really?
8 years.
Just 8 years?
You know how many 1,000-yard seasons he had?
Wasn't a lot. I know that he was kind of regarded as a bit of a disappointment as a pro, but he had 1 or 2 1,000-yard season, did he?
He had 1. He had another year over 900. He was a second-team All-Pro in 2007 for the Browns. That year, Derek Anderson played out of his mind.
Yeah, how much of it was he was a disappointment? How much of it was he got stuck with the Browns?
Well, not even just that. He also played with the Jets. He played 10 games with the Seahawks, and he played 9 games with the 49ers before getting hurt. That was a good 49ers team in 2011, but he got hurt. So that kind of ended his career. First headline for me today. This is actually news that first broke yesterday. It was originally reported by the Kansas City Star, but Kansas transfer guard Shaquille Moore. Spencer, you brought this up to Michael Swain earlier today. He could miss up to 8 weeks after breaking his foot during a pickup game, which will leave a big hole for KU at the backup point guard spot. You heard Michael talking about it earlier. He has really impressed at KU practice. I mean, we've heard that from Michael. I've just been told that he has really impressed people. He is PG2 for this team. And if he looks as good as we've heard that he looks, you can probably drop DeJuan Harris down to 30 minutes a game, because Shaquille Moore can guard. He can play defense. He's a good enough scorer. You can move him to the 2 guard if you need. Zeke Mayo can play the 1 in a pinch. They can live with Zeke Mayo as the backup 1 if they need it for the first 2 weeks of the season. They can live with that. Zeke's a good enough player. I'm not sweating that. But I know Bill Self really likes Shaquille Moore. That's going to be a really useful player for the Jayhawks this year. And it's a bummer he's going to miss the final lead up to the regular season.
It really is. Was looking forward to seeing how he mixed and how having viable backup options at point guard was going to maybe help DeJuan Harris be a little fresher in January through March.
It's kind of funny. I feel like Moore is almost the one player other than Hunter Dickinson, and maybe even more so, like his role is so set. You are backup point guard. I think he's going to close almost every game for defense. Every time they need to defend to end the game, I think Shaquille Moore is going to be out there either as the 1 or the 2. You are going to relieve DeJuan Harris. We need you to score 4 to 6 points a game, play good on-ball defense, and that's it. Like, Zeke Mayo, is he more of a 1? Is he more of a 2? Are you going to play small with him at the 3? KJ, What is KJ's role? How many minutes do you want for DeJuan Harris? Where is Rylan Griffin going to fit in? Shaq Moore is the guy with the easiest role. Like, you back up Harris. Yeah. Can you play 10 to 15 minutes and guard well? If the answer is yes, you're going to be Bill Self is going to compliment you every single game.
We have some breaking KU football news while we're on the Jayhawks topic. We now know.
Am I going to be upset?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We now know who they're going to play week 1 of next year. If you maybe recall, Stephen F. Austin was originally scheduled as the FCS opponent, and that game was canceled. So the Jayhawks were looking for a week 1 opponent for 2025. And it's being reported that it will be The Jayhawks against the Seahawks of Wagner. That will be the week 1 opponent in 2025.
How many college Seahawks can you name?
Wagner, and there's UNC Wilmington.
I believe that's it, at least at the D1 level.
Wagner football, for the record, is 1-1 so far this season. They just beat Virginia Lynchburg in their most recent game. Just had to, check that. That was their opener. They got drilled by Lehigh this past Saturday. They have made the FCS playoffs precisely once back in 2012.
I know a kid who punted for Wagner, a year older than me in high school. Yeah, I don't remember him punting in high school. Like, I don't really remember him having that job, but then he punted at the FCS level for 2 years. So,
to give you an idea about Wagner Seahawk football, they were 0-2 in the COVID year. They were 0-11 the year after that. They were 1-10 in 2022. They won 4 games in 2023. So maybe the trajectory is headed up. They're 1-1 this year.
I give KU credit for not even bothering to schedule a hard FCS game. They truly just treat it like a scrimmage. And honestly, I kind of respect it.
All right, Spencer, you got a quick headline for us?
Yeah, a little NFL injury notes. According to Ian Rappaport, the Steelers are planning to start Justin Fields once again on Sunday. Mike Tomlin talked to the reporters earlier. Russell Wilson, who missed week 1 with calf tightness, is feeling better. He'll be monitored, but there's going to be no revenge game against the Broncos this weekend.
That's too bad.
Also,
I was looking forward to that.
Christian McCaffrey's status in doubt once again next week, or I guess this weekend, to take on the Vikings. Basically, he has his Achilles is tendonitis, and he might be up and down all season.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That really sucks. And you got to be careful with Achilles at any point, especially with a guy who's been injured a lot and really relies on explosion.
Yeah, that's
a bummer.
Yeah, you do worry about that for Christian McCaffrey. Also, I got to shout out Mike Tomlin, man. He benched Russell Wilson. Like, he sneakily made Russell Wilson a backup.
You think it's benching?
If he's healthy and they're not going to play him, what else is it?
Attitude. That's why he's benched.
Yeah. Famously poor attitude teammate Russell Wilson. No, man, I just think he's benched. I just think they want to go with Justin Fields. Like, there's at least a little upside with a younger player. Now, I know your opinion on Fields, Brendan.
I mean, didn't they have 4 field goals last game? Like, just field goals, 6 field goals?
There were only points. They had 6 field goals.
More like Justin field goals.
I applaud them for winning that game with just field goals.
And the thing is, 3 of them were from 50 plus. It's not like they got to the 10 every time. Like, they still didn't really penetrate.
No, it's not a good. I'm kind of out on Justin Fields too. But like, that could have been a really awkward situation. It sort of feels like it isn't now. It's just like, hey, we're gonna go with the younger guy. Yeah. And sorry, Russ, we're paying you $1 million. The Broncos are paying you substantially more than that to be our backup. And actually, I think it's a little funnier from the Broncos' perspective now that they're not paying somebody to be a starter for somebody else. They're paying someone to be a backup for somebody else. That's going to do it for 580 Sports Talk headlines. We're going to take a quick break, come back with a final word to wrap up 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Final word time on this edition of 580 Sports Talks. We get done early for Royals baseball. Brendan Warzinski, what do you got?
The final thing I'm looking to see from this Royals team before they make it to the postseason, and I'm not going to waver from that. They are going to make the postseason this year. I just want to understand the method to the madness in terms of bullpen usage for Matt Quatrero and the Royals. Why do some guys get 2 days or 2 innings here, but not here? Why is it in this certain order? Why is Lucas Erceg sometimes the fireman, sometimes not? I don't really understand it. I would love to get a little more clarity, though, before we get to October.
Spencer Dupuis, final word.
I, too, would like some of that clarity. I'm looking forward to actually watching more of tonight's game. Unfortunately, I didn't go to watch a lot of last night's game between stuff I was doing and such. But if they can squeak out a win tonight and go and be able to win tomorrow, I mean, tomorrow, we'll talk about tomorrow. But, yeah, I'm excited to see if they can squeak out 2 against the Yankees. The Yankees haven't been the best in this stretch.
My final word is that I think the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the National Football League. And after week 1, I am not entirely unconvinced that it is close, that there's anybody else that belongs on the same tier right now with the Chiefs. And it's not a surprise that the Chiefs look good in week 1 because Andy Reid's teams always look good in week 1. They run the toughest camp. They're the most prepared to start a season on a high note. I'm not writing anyone off that I believed to be a contender just yet, though there are certainly some concerns in Cincinnati and Baltimore, and Buffalo might have to find some playmakers on defense, and maybe the Texans are better than we thought they were going to be. But, man, after what I watched in week 1, I really felt like the best team I saw was the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's a pretty good sign for the team chasing their 3rd straight Super Bowl. And they might be the best by some distance in the AFC because everybody else seems to have a pretty obvious flaw where I don't believe the Chiefs do. We got Chiefs baseball. No, we don't. We have Royals baseball coming your way.
That would be a spectacle, though.
That certainly would. Travis Kelce batting cleanup. No, the Royals are next. For Brendan, for Spencer, I'm Dan. I'm out of here.